We'll now turn our attention to golf. 2018 US PGA Championship, last major of the year, held at Belle Country Club. It's a stiff par 70 course, 7,316 yards. Penal rough, as you see at any major. Zoysia grass fairways and greens. Greens running at about 11 on the stimp meter, so slightly slower than most major tournaments. It's an old school course, long tough greens. It's long drivers that tend to do well at these courses, and the first person you think of in that sort of profile is Dustin Johnson, and he's heading the market at 9-1 from Rory McIlroy at 11-1. Justin Thomas, recent winner, last tournament out, WGC Bridgestone. Jordan Spieth 18-1, Woods 18-1, Brooks Koepka 20-1, Jason Day, Rose, Fowler, Molinari 25-1. The first selection I'll come in with is Jon Rahm 25-1. He's not been on the scene that long, but the whole time he's been on, he's always been in the conversation in terms of the winner's enclosure. Big driver of the ball, good iron play, just solid play. I mean, the only thing that he doesn't have really is the experience that a lot of the other players have, but that's simply because he hasn't even been around that long. He's been around a couple of years, and the whole time he's been around, he's been a threat. USPGA should suit him. He's definitely a big hitter. It's definitely accurate, definitely a birdie machine. So I think he could do well this week. He's going to win the major at some point. He's going to win a major at some point soon. Certainly within the next couple of years, you'd expect him to rack up one. And he could win this week. There's no doubt about that. I think 25-1 of the numbers are there. I think it's a reasonable number. He's usually around 20-1. So we'll take that 25-1 on Jon Rahm. We're going to take Mark Leishman as well at 60-1. Tied 14th in the WGC Bridgestone tournament we've just had. Second in the AT&T Byron Nelson. Underrated player. Second in the Open 2015. He's always there or thereabouts. He doesn't attract the headlines. But anyone who knows about golf knows it's about consistency. And as I've said 3 million times on pretty much every golf video I've done, Mark Leishman is always a solid bet. I'd expect him to be somewhere around sort of 33s to 40-1, and he's out at 60-1. So for me, you've got to take it. You've got to get involved in that. So 60-1, I'll take Leishman. I'm also going to go for Torbjorn Olesen at 85-1. Tied third in the WGC Bridgestone, just passed. Tied 12th in the Open. Tied 6th in the Irish Open. Tied second in the BMW International Open, and winner of the Italian Open. All those results are this year. He's a long hitter of the ball. He's got a fantastic swing technically. It's a good swing to look at. Big hitter, which is something we're going to be looking for at Belle Country Club. And at 85-1, I think it's a beautiful price. I wouldn't expect him to be, anything more than about 66-1. I would have him probably at 50-1 because he's been in red hot form. He's been dangerous in recent weeks. He's got a lot of ability. And 85-1, it's too big, and so I'll take it. It's a lovely bit of value. All these selections are going to be each way based on 8 places, a fifth of the odds. So we've got Rahm 25-1, Leishman 60-1, Olesen 85-1. The next one we're going to go for is Xander Schauffele. He's 40-1, and he's someone who, young man, he's a very big hitter of the ball. I did watch him quite a lot at the Open. He was in contention at the Open. I think he was tied second in the end in the Open. What did he do in the US Open? Tied 6th. So this is a guy who's performing in major tournaments. He's a young man. He's a big hitter. You're hearing his name around, and now I'm about to jump on the bandwagon. I've heard his name mentioned by a lot of respected golf analysts for a while, and I think I'm going to jump in on the Xander Schauffele bandwagon and hope that he can perform this week as well. He's already done it at the Open. He's already done it at the US Open, so I can't see any reason why he can't produce something at the US PGA Championship. The last selection I'm going to go for is going to be a bit of a... Well, I've picked him before. It's not that random. It's not that much out there. I'm going to go for Pat Perez, the 42-year-old. He's at 130-1 this week, so a very big number. I don't think there's any reason for him to be out of that sort of number. He shouldn't really be any more, in my view, than about 80-1. He's at 130-1. And I think it's a big number. He's a tidy player. Not the biggest hitter in the world. He's been around for a while. He's a chilled out character. He turns out, does his best, doesn't take it too seriously. And that sort of profile is always prone to producing amazing weeks of golf. Doesn't put too much pressure on himself. And he's tied 17th in the Open this year, second in the Zurich Classic of New Orleans. I think he's a 3-time PGA Tour winner. He's just a tidy, able player. He's often overlooked. He has a lot of ability. He was known early on in his career to be a bit of a hothead. I think he was doing well in the Pebble Beach Pro-Am 2002, and he lost his cool on live TV. He has dropped the odd F-bomb on camera before, but he's a bit older now. He's a bit wiser. He, as I said, doesn't put too much pressure on himself, and I'm hoping that mentality is going to come good. I'd expect him to nick a major. US PGA is one of those majors where you do have some names coming out of the bag, you know, out of nowhere and winning. And Perez, I think, would surprise a few people, but wouldn't surprise me too much. He's got the ability. And I think he's definitely worth a go at a big meaty score of 130 to 1. So I've picked my selections. Rahm, Leishman, Ollison, Xander Schauffele and Pat Perez. Obviously the usual suspects are there. I've overlooked them. In search of value, I've talked a little bit about Dustin Johnson. He's obviously a threat. Rory McIlroy's hitting the ball very well. Saw him at the WGC Bridgestone. Few issues with his putting. That's what's costing him. Had a little bit of a meltdown in the final round last week at the WGC Bridgestone. Rose performed amazingly at the Open, coming in second place. And we talk about him all the time. We back him a lot of the time. I don't think there's any value at the price he's at the moment, though. 22s. Jason Day did very well last week and is starting to look a bit more like himself. Very talented player, former major winner. Justin Thomas, for obvious reasons, won last week. Has been playing amazing golf for a year or two now. Brooks Koepka's a double US Open champion, tied 5th last week at the WGC Bridgestone. He'll be in the conversation. But I've looked past all of those on the basis of price. Not one of them is any better than around 20 to 1. And so on the basis of price, I'm going to stay away from them. McIlroy's always short. Spieth's always short. Spieth's 18 to 1 this week, which isn't too bad. He's often around 12s. Did all right at the Open as well, so he might be worth a look. Woods at 18 to 1. I did see him at the Open, striking the ball beautifully. It was lovely to see him in contention. He let it go in the back nine. I don't know if that was it seemed like a mental thing. Like he was holding it together up until the back nine on Sunday, and then he kind of didn't maintain that and didn't, put on the pressure. Had a few bogeys and didn't really happen for him in the end, but it's still a top 10, still a great performance. But I think 18 to 1, I'm just going to leave it. I see him more of he's a horrendous player, and we can see he has it in him now to win these big tournaments and majors now. But I still see him as sort of a 25, shortest 25 to 1, sort of 33 to 1 I see him. So I'm going to leave him on a base of value. Ian Poulter's 80 to 1. That might be worth a look after a sensational 62 in the first round of the WGC Bridgestone last week. He was leading the tournament, obviously didn't come through on it, fell away a little bit after that, but it's obvious that he's playing well. And obviously with Ryder Cup being discussed now, he wants to be a pick, so he wants to do well. He's in good touch. Who knows? 80 to 1. Big number. But I'm going to stick with my picks. Jon Rahm 25 to 1, Mark Leishman 60 to 1, Torbjorn Olesen 85 to 1, Xander Schauffele 40 to 1, and Pat Perez 130 to 1. Based on the 8 places, a fifth of the odds. Enjoy the tournament. Please give any comments as to anyone you think who has a chance this week, anyone who presents value in the betting. Definitely enjoy. It's going to be great, and I'll see you next time.